So you're thinking about moving to Lenexa, Kansas? Well, in this video, we're gonna be talking all about Lenexa, Kansas. We're gonna take a look at the map, show you how to get around, and if you stick around to the end, I'm gonna tell you my top 3 favorite things about living in Lenexa, Kansas, things you need to know before you consider making that your home. Hey, if this is your first time tuning into the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in Kansas City and places like Lenexa, Kansas, then click subscribe, hit that little bell for notifications so you can be the first to know of the current market here in the KC metro area. My name is Zach Morton, my business partner Max Jones, the Mojo Real Estate team, and I have been helping people move to Kansas City for over 20 years. We absolutely love it, but you don't have to take my word for it. See what our clients have to say with over 600 5-star Google reviews from people just like you. So whether you're moving in 9 days or 90 days, just pick up that phone. You can give us a call, shoot us a text, drop us an email, even schedule a Zoom call so we can chat with you and your goals and help you with that seamless transition into the KC market. All that contact information is in the description below. So today, Lenexa. Let's go ahead and pull up the map here on the computer. All right, so let's take a look at the map here. I've got this Google map pulled up on my computer screen. I love to use Google. I highly recommend it if you guys are looking for things to do. You're probably already doing that, but it's a great place to start. As you can see right now, I've got Lenexa, Kansas outlined in red, and I always like to start these videos with a zoom out so you can see where it is in relationship to Kansas City as a whole. So I'm gonna go ahead and back us out right now. All right, as you can see right out of the gate, Lenexa is down here on the southwest side of Kansas City. Now there is a Kansas City, Kansas and a Kansas City, Missouri, which I always love to point out. And that dividing line here is the Missouri River. It goes right downtown Kansas City, and then the state line drops straight south. And on this side we have Mo, and on this side is everything Kansas. So the city lies on both sides. There is, I also like to point this out, if you are coming into Kansas City, you're looking around, you're gonna hear people say, oh, I live up north or I live down south. This river continues on across the state of Missouri. And if you live in the Northland or up north, that's this side of the river, obviously. And if you live down south or south of the river, that could be Kansas or Missouri, but it's anything south of that river. So just so you'll hear people say that, I'm going shopping down south, I'm gonna go out to eat, we're gonna head down south. That's what they're talking about. So now that you know how the city's laid out, let's mop that up a little bit and zoom in a little bit. Okay. So one thing I like to point out right away is the great highway access. We have 35 highway, runs right into Kansas City, downtown, goes right through the edge of Lenexa and then on down south. It also continues all the way north through the city and goes up towards Liberty. We also have a 435 highway system, which is a highway system that circumvents the city. It goes all the way around it. So depending on what your drive times are and where you're trying to get to, it's a great highway system that wraps around the city and also goes right through Lenexa, kind of through the middle of it. And then you also have K7 or 7 highway, which runs through the west side of Lenexa, which is also great access to kind of the Kansas side of things. Just get north and south, it's a little less traffic. It also puts you pretty close to Lawrence, which is out here. It's about a 36-minute drive to Lawrence. So whether you're working in Lawrence, kids are going to college out there, or you're just playing on some of these big lakes. We have Clinton Lake. We've got another lake up here to the south, Lake Perry, or to the north, Lake Perry. Great sailing lakes, great for wind sports. I'm a kiteboarder. I go out to Clinton all the time. It's wide open and it's great in the summertime for wind sports because there's a lot of distance right here and a lot of clean wind comes across it. So anyway, same thing with Perry Lake. It's a great sailing lake because you've got that north-south lineup. So you got a great southern wind in the summer and a great northern wind in the winter, which is nice and clean because it travels the whole lake. So anyway, enough on lakes. That's about 36 minutes to get out that way. And then get into downtown Kansas City, you're looking at like 15, 16 minutes depending on traffic. So really pretty easy there, great access to downtown. So that's kind of the highway systems that I did want to point out and how conveniently located that is. Now, you are down here in Lenexa. One of the things that I really like about this spot is you are surrounded by great spots. So not only is there a lot going on right here in Lenexa, but you've also got Shawnee Mission up here. Great spot. We've got Overland Park. This is one of the bigger suburbs or cities in Kansas City. Well, it is the biggest one, 220,000 people big. And then you've got Olathe, which is another great one. And while I'm touching on these areas right here with Shawnee, Olathe, and Overland Park, is something unique to Lenexa is it does not have its own school district. So it actually, or DeSoto, it actually borrows school districts from its neighboring cities. So this is only, let's see, we are 34 square miles right here. So not very big, but in that 36 square miles, we've got a population of 57,000 people. Overland Park over here, our biggest subdivision of Kansas, or biggest suburb of Kansas City, is at 220,000 people. So much smaller, but you've got access to all the great stuff that OP has to offer. And you get the school districts from Shawnee, the great school districts of Olathe and DeSoto. So these are all A+ rated. You know, you can really dive into the details if you want, but you're really just splitting hairs between these 3 school districts. You really can't go wrong, in my opinion. But there are great resources. There's greatschools.org and there's niche.com and probably a handful of other resources that you can use or we can direct you to if school districts are important. I know they were for me and my family. When we moved out, we spent a little time on the West Coast for a few years. Born and raised in Kansas City. Went out there in the 40, in my, well, just before I turned 40, when the kids were 7 and 8, 7 and 9. Spent a few years out there and came back. So I've kind of gone through what you might be going through when you're coming into a new place. You've got a lot on your mind. You want to make sure you pick the right spot. You're spending a lot of money on a house. You don't want to screw that up because you know you're going to be stuck there for a couple years. So just I've been through that. Most of the people on our team have done the same thing. My business partner Max, he did his little stint in New York for several years before he came back. So we've been through this personally. We have clients that go through it all the time. And that's why it is important to learn these areas as much as you can before you get here, so you know kind of already what you're getting into. You can feel comfortable and confident about making that decision and choosing that house in that neighborhood. So this has a lot of great school districts, so it would check a lot of boxes in my list if we were making that move again. Conveniently located to Kansas City. The only thing that I could kind of point out as a negative, I do like to travel a lot. I am spoiled because I live so close to the airport. The Kansas City airport is located right about up here, and you know, it's still easy to get to. Even when I was living out west, I was 30, 45 minutes to the airport. So you just get used to it. Most cities are like that, depending on where you're coming from. I'm spoiled right now. I'm 15 minutes from the airport. Somebody hits the tarmac, they just call me, and I'm up there waiting for them before they even got their bags and they're out on the street. So down here, you're probably 30, 45 minutes. You do have 435 straight shot right up to the airport. So just depending on traffic, it's still pretty easy to get to. You know, during rush hour, 435 will pick up a little steam, but then once you get north of the river, there's not a whole lot of traffic, especially heading north. Definitely more population down south of the river on the Kansas side, and then as you go up north or basically just get north of the river, it really starts to thin out a little bit in terms of population density. But anyway, I do like to point that out. It's probably the only negative thing that I can say about that, and really, is it if it's that much of a negative? You know, not really. Unless you're traveling every day or going to the airport a couple times a week. So back in here, getting around in Lenexa, as you can see, we've got 35 highways. That one runs right up into downtown Kansas City. Now this highway is going to be heavily trafficked during the rush hours. It's going to get the Overland Park folks are going to be on it. Your Lenexa, Olathe is going to be using it, Shawnee. Everybody on this side of town is going to be using this for the main point. If you are more west, on the west side, over in this area is where you're living in Lenexa, then you're probably going to be hopping on 435. But it's really to get in and out of downtown, that's your main drag. So just keep that in mind, but it's still pretty easy. The traffic's always flowing. There will be wrecks every once in a while and you'll get some stops. For the most part though, I never find myself really sitting in traffic. There is this exit when you try to get on 635, which you might be crawling there for 5 or 10 minutes. But for the most part, Kansas City is known for not having crazy traffic. Again, it depends where you're coming from. You can always hop on Google Maps during rush hours and actually see it in real time and see the red, see where it backs up. I always recommend doing that. I like to do that before I go to a city just to kind of get a feel for things. But overall in all, it's really not that bad. You know, it's nothing that I really dread having to go through unless I am heading out of town trying to get out of town Friday and heading down south to the lakes. We do have the Ozarks and some other vacation destinations to the south, and that can be a kind of taxing if you're living up north. So being on the south side of town, I guess, is another pro. Really is that, you know, you're already close to heading south. You don't have to go through all this like I do. There is Lake of the Ozarks down here, which is a very popular area. And then even down into Arkansas and Bentonville, there is a lot of great lakes down here. Branson gets a lot of traffic, just a lot of great lakes. We've got the hot springs over here. So just a lot going on right down here in southern Missouri that people will pop out of town for. Float trips, a lot of people will have lake houses down at Lake of the Ozarks. This is just a huge meandering lake. I mean, they made a TV show after it, it's so big. A lot of fun times, lots of great memories. I've got lots of friends that have cabins and houses down there, so you don't necessarily even have to own a house. Eventually you're gonna meet a friend that has a house down there, so you're gonna get there. But lots of camping, lots of stuff to do. Warsaw, I mean, it just goes on and on. If you're looking for things to do and you're having a hard time and you're moving to Kansas, just call me. I am great at finding fun things to do and would love for you to join me. But anyway, back to Lenexa. Let's get in a little bit. I do like to look at the satellite map a little bit just so you guys can kind of get an idea of how it's laid out. We did do a vlog on Lenexa where I'm actually walking around down here. I'm at the city center walking around showing that off. We go to a couple neighborhoods, golf course neighborhoods, so I show you some properties, show you what you could expect to get for different price points so you can get a really good feel for these neighborhoods. But as you can see, we have 35 north, or south, depending on which way you're going, running right through the east side of Lenexa. And right around here, I'll zoom in on it in a second, but you can see all these big white buildings. There is a lot of kind of industrial stuff, mainly more like warehouses, corporate headquarters, things like that. There's some indoor volleyball. I know my daughter's had volleyball tournaments, and I know I've been in some of those buildings, but as we zoom in, that's all pretty centrally located right around the highway, so these trucks can get in and out. There's some hospital systems. Evergy, which is our energy company down here. JCPenney's is their distribution center, and they're one of the major employers in the area. You know, FedEx shipping, you can just imagine. There's jump parks and all that kind of warehousey stuff down there too. Then as we get a little farther north, kind of on the highway, you're gonna have your shopping. We've got Oak Park Mall over here. So if you're into the mall, this is one of the bigger malls in the whole Kansas City area. So lots of indoor shopping there. Academy Sports, you're gonna have Costco on this side. We're gonna have Sam's Club on the other side of the highway. So all that stuff right here around this hub. And if I didn't make it obvious before that we're close to a lot of great cities and suburbs of Kansas City. So even if you can't find your niche right in here, or any of these other little neighborhood shopping districts that we're going to kind of touch on, there's always anything you could ever want is just to your east over here in Overland Park, and really close and really easy to get to. But as soon as we get past this industrial stuff, we've got this main drag kicking through here, 87th Street. Off of that, you're going to have all your neighborhoods. There is going to be some little shopping districts right around each of those neighborhoods. There's going to be some golf courses. Everything's pretty densely populated here, filled in pretty good. As we get west of 435, 435 is where the city center is. So actually during our vlog, we are hanging out right down here. This is a brand new area that Lenexa is dumping a ton of money into. I always jokingly say millions and millions of dollars to really beautify this, make it a attraction and a place to hang out. So they've still got lots of room to build. Look at all these squares they have to fill in. But right now there's lots of restaurants. There's places you can go to have a beer, watch some outdoor music. There's the farmer's market that is a great farmer's market. And not only do they have the farmer's market during the summer a couple times a week, but even in the winter you can go down here at, you know, not as frequently, but get some of those greenhouse goods from local farmers. But you can definitely see from this map, as we go west, you know, I see a lot of green space with no houses in it. And that's where you're gonna be able to find some more of your acreage properties. There's a lot of golf courses, still new stuff out here. We did actually Falcon Valley. I think we were in there looking at a house if you check out our vlog tour. But as you can see, the further we get west towards DeSoto, we've got a lot of land over here. We've got a lot of homes that are on like estate-sized lots. Big acreage, that's probably 3 to 5 acres. And then So if that's something that's important to you, that is something that's out there and that can be obtained in Lenexa. We can pick your builder, get your spot, get your layout, get your design, get you connected, and really build a sweet spot in a sweet location. So that's kind of it. Let's go back to this map because that one's kind of cumbersome to look at. One of my favorite things about Lenexa is the parks. You can see all these little green dots everywhere. There is parks everywhere. They're pretty equally spread out. There's over 30 parks. One of the biggest and baddest ones is this Shawnee Mission Park. This is over 1,600 acres of park with trails and all kinds of stuff. But the lake is also one of the bigger lakes. It's half in Lenexa and half in Shawnee, but the lake is great. You can get on there. You can boat. You can fish. They stock this with trout every year. They have a new boat washing station that they put in. Clean your boat before you get in, clean it when you get out. We're trying to keep the invasive species from traveling from lakes to lakes. So that's a new thing we're doing here in the Midwest. And I do want to point out there is an off-leash dog park area. And we'll pull up this map too because this is a great spot. I like to take my dog down here too. There's a dog beach, right? Look at all this land. You can just go through there, leash off, but then I'll go down here and get the tennis ball and then chuck it and launch it out in the lake. My dog loves to swim, so it's a great way to wear her out, keep her cool on those hot days, and bump into some other friendly dogs. But as you can see, a great big lake. There's marinas over here. You can go down here and rent yourself a kayak, paddle boats, can't tell what those are, canoes. They've got all kinds of stuff that you can rent. Parking, we've got golf over here. There is a pump track and a skate track, or a skateboard park over here, and then there is just up here a little bit, there's a mountain bike skills area, so you can go in there and practice your mountain biking. So this park just really offers a lot to the community. There is also great trail systems. There's actually this trail right here runs all the way south, north and south, all the way from either side of Lenexa. So it takes you through several neighborhoods, connects to several other trail systems and other parks, but then we'll drop you into the Shawnee Mission Park. So I love that about how that's laid out. We'll take you to some of these golf courses, but as you can see, Black Hoof Park, which is another. So Black Hoof, if you watch our vlog, he actually was an Indian chief that was the chief of, I guess he had a reservation of over 1.6 million acres. And back in around the 1850s, they seceded to the United States, and him and his wife, Nenexa, or Nenexi, were the first two signers on that document that seceded that Indian reservation to the U.S. government. And then later on, when they platted that about 10 years later, they were trying to think up names, and they wanted to honor Chief Black Hoof. He had passed away, so his widow, and they named it Lenexa, because I guess nobody could say Nenexi, or it wasn't a common name. So anyway, that's where it came from. So Black Hoof Park, which is a great park. You're gonna have disc golf here, dog walking. They're even up here at Shawnee Mission Park, there's an archery range. I mean, all kinds of great stuff to do. So I just can't say enough about the park system and all the trails and how they all interlock and connect to a lot of the neighborhoods and golf courses, especially here in the central Lenexa, that's been planned out and developed a little later on than the eastern side. So anyway, that is all amazing stuff right there in Lenexa in your backyard that it all has to offer. Lenexa is also a big sports hub. So I know my son's in baseball. We have been to so many tournaments down here at the 3-2 baseball field. So it pulls people from all over the country. So if you're into athletics and sports, Lenexa, we're always like, oh, we got to drive all the way down there again. I'm up north, right? So it's a little bit of a jaunt, but lots of sports activities here, and then indoor stuff in some of these warehouses closer to the 35 that we kind of talked about. So there will be a lot. It's kind of a sports hub of south of the river. So lots going on down there. Just to zoom in back on your restaurants and groceries and all that. All the fine dining. We do have the old town. We touched on the new town, which is that city center. So right off the highway here is the old Santa Fe Trail Drive. and that is the old Santa Fe Trail that went down to New Mexico when the settlers were moving west. There's the Oregon Trail that kind of went up towards Oregon, and this one that kind of went down south, and it is a road today. There is kind of an old downtown area that is also being revitalized. They are also dumping millions of dollars into that as well. But right now you can tell there's a Jerry's Bait Shop, which is a local bar. They play live music, ice cream shop, a couple sweet treats. But it's kind of a cool little area, a little more laid back, kind of like you might imagine. And then all that new stuff is going on right over here around the 435 intersection. All along 87th here, we've got all kinds of little shops. So this is going to dissect Lenexa from the north and the south. So depending on if you're here or there, wherever you're living, you are going to be close to 87th and have all kinds of shopping, more parks, more trails, disc golf, all kinds of fun stuff for the kids. Everything down here is highly rated. Look at that, 4.8 out of 2,700 reviews for SoCo Park. So just great park setup. When I get the feel when I'm walking through and driving through Lenexa, they spend a lot of money. They do have a slightly higher tax rate. You're coming in at like 9.4% on sales tax, where I think the national average is like 7.5%. So it's not the end of the world, but they do a lot of great things with that. Driving down the streets, the medians are mowed, all the curbs are nice and new, the streets are new, they get construction done. When you read some of the reviews about the residents, those are some of the things they boast about. It's nice, it's clean. It is 60-40 rental, but all the rentals there that I come across going through these main areas, when we're showing houses out there, they're all nice, upper end, everything's nice, clean, and new, and I just can't say enough about that. They're usually, when you hear that, 40% rentals, you're thinking, or I don't know, I go there, old apartment buildings, kind of rundown stuff, and that's just not the case with this. There's just a really diverse group of people. There's a lot of great companies here that employ a lot of people, even for how small of a footprint it is. Some major employers employing 2,000. Garmin, for instance, started there. I'm wearing my Garmin watch right now. Back in the day, if you've heard of them, and Q8 Construction, they've got over 2,300 electrical engineers that they employ. So just a lot of great companies. You saw all those warehousey areas and corporate areas right off 35. So a lot of great job opportunities. So it's a great place to live, to work, to relax, to play. And like I said, if you need any of that major shopping stuff, Overland Park has just about everything. We go down here by like Prairie Fire and Town Center is some of the major shopping areas for Overland Park. And that's, as you can see, here's the line. We're just over here. So, you might have to cross a couple highways or whatever, but if you want any of that major stuff, you've got access to it. Overland Park really does have everything, and you share a border with Overland Park. So lots of golf courses over there, and really the same with Lenexa. It's just a little bit scaled down, a little more elbow room, a little less dense, a little less traffic. And really, I can't, like I said, the only real negative I can think of is that distance to the airport if you're traveling a lot. But other than that, it's got a lot of great things going for it. Let's see if we can zoom in here and if there's anything else that I missed that I wanted to just point out. Mainly there's golf course. There's lots of new construction going on all over to the west and all around kind of that city center or that 435 area. So anything right in here, you've got golf, it's all going to be nice and new and easy and newer streets. Just a great clean place to hang around. The population for Lenexa as a whole is very diverse age-wise, so it's not just retired people, it's not just young kids in their 20s trying to make a start, but it's pretty even across the board because everybody really enjoys that. And with all the you just get that pride of ownership. People come here, they want to stay here, they can work there. It's just got a lot going for it, and Lenexa is spending a lot of money to keep it that way and to attract more people, and it just keeps getting better every year. So that is my take on Lenexa. I think we've probably talked on it enough. Over here, I guess at the city center, just to point out, this is where they'll have concerts. This is where the public market is, which is the kind of indoor. They got the micro restaurants in there, so you can go in, you know, maybe you want sushi, maybe your kids want pizza, and maybe your wife wants a burger. Well, it can all happen under this roof. All these little micro restaurants and boutique shops. There could be live music going on any given day down here, and then we've just got shopping. We've got lots of apartments right around this area. This also bleeds into some single family. So all of this is super walkable, and that's what I just really love about this area, is they're building all this nice new stuff. You've got golf course, you've got restaurants there. If we zoom in on here, we got even more restaurants kind of mingled in. It kind of has that, you know, nothing close to like New York City, but you've got apartments with restaurants and shops underneath them. So you're kind of living where you're hanging out and eating, and you know, just one of those. Oh, and then we got barbecue, right? You can't go to Kansas City without trying some barbecue. Jack Stack's Barbecue is my favorite place to get ribs, and it's one of my favorite barbecue sauces, especially for a low-calorie barbecue sauce. I love it. So, and you can pick this up at Costco and all the grocery stores around here too. But anyway, not to get off on a tangent on barbecue sauce. Hey, I think that's pretty much kind of sums up how Lenexa sits on the map, where it is, and location to everything. Here we are, right smack. Kansas City is right smack in the middle of the country. We're attracting a lot of new jobs. They're calling us the Silicon Prairie because we have more fiber laid by Google right here in the Kansas City area than any other place in the country. And that's because, right, if you're gonna build a spider web, why not start here? So we're already seeing a lot of tech people come, and it's just a great central location, whether you're traveling to other places for vacation. It really is a great central spot, close to everything. The flights to everywhere. I'm getting to Miami in 3 hours. We get down to Mexico is kind of what the beach that most of the folks will go to. If you want a direct flight to a beach, we're flying right down here in like 4 hours, and you're in Cancun, hanging out on the water. California, Oregon, you know, 4 hours, and then Colorado, just a couple to get into the mountains for those ski trips. So, you know, even though we don't have our oceans or our beaches other than lake beaches, we are close to all that stuff. And with a brand new airport that Kansas City just put in not too long ago, every day we have more and more options that are coming up for direct flights to all these great destinations. And it just makes living in Kansas City great place. And you know, I guess while we're touching on this, one of my other favorite things about Overland Park, I said if you stick around to the end, I'm going to give it to you, and that is the cost of living. So Overland Park comes in right at 105. If the national average is 100%, this is coming in at 105 for cost of living. And the number one thing that's pushing that up is the property values, which are coming in, if you break that out separately, 120% of the national average. Everything else kind of pulls that back down. So it really makes it a great sweet spot. Yeah, you might be spending just a little bit more on your real estate, but with the average prices, I've got that right here. Let me go over the average price for you. It's really, I think, the bang for your buck and the value that you get, you just can't beat. Crime is super low. It's just got a lot of good going for it. But the sold prices, the average over the last 12 months was $493 with a sale price, with a median sale price of $430, and that was out of 710 homes that sold here in the last 12 months. So that, you know, the house price is the biggest thing, but when you compare that over to Overland Park or some of the other areas nearby, it's a pretty sweet spot. So yeah, definitely gives that some thought. Let us know if you have any other questions. The other thing I said, crime is low here, so you know, it's got that going for it. And then niche.com has this rated. They don't give this rating out a lot, but they have this rated as their overall, taking all things considered we just talked about, as an A+ rated. When you take school districts, you take crime, you take property values and cost of living, and put that all into a bag, and they give it an A+. So, you know, all that being said, that is my take on Lenexa. I hope you enjoyed the map video. I hope that kind of gives you an idea how to get around, where everything else is and the other spots. But again, this is all about you. We just try to make these videos informative. So if you don't mind, if you did find some value, click like, hit subscribe, all that good stuff. It helps other people find it. Please feel free to comment if you have a question on this. We love getting comments and responding to that. But just remember, relax. You have a friend in the business. Let us know how we can help you, and I look forward to connecting with you, and see you on the next one. Thanks for watching.